Oh, I am live. Hello, everyone. Hello, Fly Tires. Um, I have really bad news for you today. Julia is not here. Julia is working on a master's program, and she's working on defending her thesis. So Julia's been working very hard, 2 jobs. So we have Drew Nisbet here today in the background, and Drew's going to do a great job. And I know you're going to miss Julia, but Drew's a cool guy too. So anyway, Julia will be back, but just as a note, I won't be back for a number of weeks. I won't be back doing this probably till mid-September. I've got some travel coming up, and can't do this on the road. So I'm going to be back on Monday Fly Tying in mid-September sometime. We'll alert you when it's coming up, but there won't be any of this for a while. So I know you'll miss me and I'll miss you, but I think we'll all survive. Anyway, today we're going to tie a relatively easy fly. We've had some tough ones lately. had some really tough ones, especially the ones with flagler. They're tough for me, anyways, as you've seen. But we're going to do an easier fly today. It's a good fly for this time of year. It's a streamer, and it's a really good fall streamer for trout. And because it has the right colors, it has the blacks and the yellows that are good for brown trout in the fall and rainbows. But it also is a terrific smallmouth and largemouth bass fly. And probably it's a good fly for nearly anything. Because it's a streamer, you can use it for nearly any species of fish that eats crayfish and baitfish. And I have no idea what this thing is supposed to look like. It's an attractor. It probably looks like a crayfish to fish. I have a feeling that they take this fly as a crayfish, but who knows? It's wiggly, and fish eat it, and they jump all over it. It's a really good smallmouth bass pattern, good largemouth pattern. You might want to put a weed guard on it. I'm not going to put a weed guard on it today, but if you look back to my horrible defeat against Tim Flagler with the mouse fly, with the mouse rat a week ago, we show how to put a weed guard on there. So but if I were to fish for largemouths, because you're going to be fishing in weed instruction more, I'd put a weed guard on it. Anyway, it's a great fly. It has a lot of action, and it's great when you pull it through the water. Here's what it looks like: lots of rubber legs and lots of marabou. So it really has a lot of wiggle, and you can fish it fast, you can fish it slow, you can fish it relatively shallow, you can fish it deep with a sinking poly leader, and you can fish it dead drift. It's a good fly dead drift because it has all that marabou and all those rubber legs that wiggle. And I'm pausing again here and there. I don't know what it is. Must be my camera. It's not my connection. Anyway, it's a great fly for lots of different fish. So no matter what you fish for, and I'm sure it would work in salt water too. I haven't tried it in salt water, but I'm sure it would work for redfish and various other striped bass and various other saltwater species. Anyway, this is the TeQueely fly. The TeQueely was developed by a guide named Kim Keeley from, the last I knew, she was living in Victor, Idaho. I don't know where Kim lives now. I've lost touch with her. But Kim is, she's one of the most amazing trout anglers I've ever fished. She's a machine. She I don't know if she guides anymore, but anyone knows, let me know. But Kim was a guide for Real Women for a long time, and she's just a machine on a trout stream, and I'm sure any place else. And she developed this fly, TeQueely. Kim was, I believe, known to have had a little tequila now and then, so she combined tequila with her last name, and came up with the name TeQueely. And it's a terrific fly. It's very, very popular fly. Been around for a while. It seems to have gotten more popular recently too, because it's not exactly a new pattern. It's probably, I don't know, 15 years old or so, but you see more and more about it these days. So I think that people have just realized that that it's a great pattern. Oh, Drew, I forgot. Once I start tying, you're going to be the one that's going to come on and read the questions to me, right? Nod your head. Yes, Drew. Okay. I can see Drew and you can't. Anyway, yeah. So let's start tying the tequila, and this is probably a good one to tie along with because it's not a hard fly to tie, and hopefully you might learn a couple new tricks, but probably nothing really new. But it's a different pattern, and it's a little bit different profile than stuff we've tied before. So without further ado, let's get going. Unless anybody has any questions, I don't see any questions other than some highs and greetings from Germany and New Zealand and the United States. Anyway, let's go look at some materials. So I'm going to tie this on a size 6 muddler stonefly hook, 3x long hook. And you could tie it on a 4x long hook. You could tie it on almost any hook you want. You need a little shank length. So you need something with a little bit of a shank length to it. I like to try to avoid 4x and 5x and 6x long hooks because they don't hold fish as well. So I'm using this 3x long, size 6. You could tie this down to, I would think, a size 8 or a 10. A 10 would be a stretch. There's a lot of stuff to pack on that hook, a lot of rubber legs to pack on a size 10. You could do it, but 6 or an 8 is probably a good size for this. And I am going to, let's go back here. I'm going to take a gold tungsten bead. You could use gold or copper. And I'm going to take I'm going to take the biggest one I got. I don't know what size this is, but it's the biggest one Orvis sells. Nice heavy tungsten bead. And I am going to find there's a big end and there's a small end to these beads, or hole, big hole, little hole. I'm going to put the point through the little hole and then slide the bead up to the eye like so. And then we'll come over to the vise and get rid of this one that's already tied and secure the hook to the vise. Make sure it looks square to you. And I think I'll just adjust my camera a tiny bit. That's good. And then I'm going to attach my black thread. You could use any color thread you want on this fly because the thread's going to disappear. It's going to be all hidden. I'm using black 6/0. And I'm going to start the thread right behind the eye. Just overwrap it. And if it makes you feel happy, you could put a drop of super glue behind the bead. You don't really need to because you're going to jam a lot of materials up front, and that bead's not going to slip back after you finish tying it. But makes you happy, put a drop of super glue or head cement there. And then I'm going to cover the shank fairly well with thread. I find that this fly, things tend to slip around a little bit. You don't have to cover every little part of the hook, but I like to get a good thread base on there and come all the way back to just where the hook starts to bend down. And I do something I don't normally do, but I do put a layer of head cement over this thread, over this first layer, because, and you could get a little glue up in the bead if you want. But I do find that things tend to slip to the side on this fly. So I put a little head cement. You use super glue or whatever adhesive you like. And if it's a little tacky when you tie in your first bunch of marabou, that's fine. All right, so now I got to get some marabou. So I'm going to get 2 pieces of yellow and 1 piece of black. So you want some nice fuzzy marabou. You're going to sort through it. You know, that's not very good. That's pretty thin. That's kind of junk there. Too thin at the tip. This is a nice fluffy one. It's kind of short because it's got those pin feathers there, so I'm not going to use that one. You know, you get, there's another bad marabou feather. You get a bunch of marabou, and some of it's not going to be that useful for what you're tying. Okay, there's a good one. And then another good one. There's a nice fluffy one. So there's 2 yellow marabous that I got. And then I'm going to take a black marabou. And the stuff I started with is the longer stuff. It's the strung marabou or select marabou, whatever. And you can also use this kind of marabou, which is woolly bugger marabou. You can mix and match it, but woolly bugger marabou is a little shorter and a little fluffier. And if I had this in yellow, I would probably use all woolly bugger marabou for this fly. It's just easier to work with, and it tends to have more body to it, more fluff. I'm going to pick one that's nice and uniform and fluffy. There's a good one there. Pull that from the bunch if I can get it. Oh, boy, there's one. Okay, so I got a piece of black and 2 pieces of yellow marabou. And then we're going to, yeah.
One of the questions that came in is, would this work in a Scottish stillwater and river? And would you ever change the colors of marabou and materials used?
This would work at times any place where trout live and bite things. Whether it would work in a Scottish loch, I assume that sometimes it would. Whether it would work tomorrow, can't tell you that. But it'll work wherever there's trout or bass at times when the fish are interested. And yes, you could tie this in any color combination you want. It wouldn't be a tequili, but it might be more or less effective. Who knows? But yeah, you could tie in any color combination you want.
And one quick follow-up from Richard Mooney. He says that a lot of his guide friends around Pennsylvania tell him that yellow and brown for streamers works really well. Have you heard about this? And can you kind of support that thought?
Yeah, yellow and brown do seem to be good colors for streamers. I believe in yellow, and I like brown. Sometimes all yellow, sometimes all brown, sometimes combined. I also like white at times. I also like black at times. But yeah, yellow and brown can be very good combinations. This one's yellow and brown and black, so it kind of covers all the bases. All right, so we're going to take our marabou, and we want it, you know, about the length of the shank. So I'm going to measure it against the shank, maybe a little longer. And I'm going to pinch it there, and I'm going to tie this in right over that bend with a pinch wrap. So I'm going to pull down. Carefully, you don't go over the hook point. And I'm going to pull down and either pinch it or hold your finger on the far side so that marabou doesn't roll over underneath the hook. And then take Start to take a couple turns forward, just so it's locked in place. Check it. Make sure it's on top of the shank. And it is. And then I'll come in with my scissors and see if I can see it, and cut it right even with the bead, using the bead for a little guide. And then I'll wet it a little bit. And then what I do first is I just come forward in kind of spirals, and I move my fingers along with the marabou just to keep it in place. And then once I get to the bead, I'll come back and wind over it so that it's secure and it binds it down a little bit more. And then you bring your thread right back to where you started, right on top of that first bunch, and you take your black one and you tie it in the same way, the same length. So I'm measuring it the same length as the yellow, and I'm going to pinch wrap that, or finger on far side wrap, whatever you like to do, but just try to keep that black from rolling over onto the shank. Take a couple turns, and at this point you might want to look to see if you got some nice bands there. And yeah, you got a nice color band, so we're good there. Now I'll bring my scissors in again, use the bead for a guide, chop it off, wet it, and then come forward in spirals till you get it all bound down. Otherwise, if you don't do that, the marabou just goes all over the place. And then come back with a little bit more turns to cover it up. And again, end up exactly the same place that you started the other two. And then you take your third yellow, or your second yellow, your third piece of marabou, and you line that up so that it's even with the ends of the other two. Here, let me turn the camera so you can see that. So I'm just lining it up so that they're all equal. Whoops. Ooh, sorry about that. Dropped my camera. I can't hold on to that marabou and adjust my camera at the same time. All right. I think we're back in business now. So I'm lining that up with the end of the black marabou. And then again, pinch wrap, making sure that that marabou does not roll onto the far side. And at this point, you might want to look at it to make sure that you got, two strips of yellow with a nice black band in between, what you do. Does it matter to the fish? Probably not. But it matters to us. We want it to look pretty. All right, and then again, in the same way, I'm going to cut that marabou, line it up, cut it. If you try to tie all three of these in at once, they're going to roll on you, and you're not going to get that distinct band very easily. And don't worry about a few fuzzies up around the head there. They're going to get buried. So I'm going to come back again to right where I started. Same spot, right at the beginning. And now I'm going to take some sparkly chenille. And for this one, for a tequili, you want kind of a coppery color, coppery brown with some flash in it. That's just what this pattern calls for. You can use any chenille you want. You could use Estes, or what's that other stuff, Drew? What's that other stuff that we just looked up?
The cactus chenille.
Cactus,
or
Estes cactus chenille in root beer color. Yeah, that'd
I'll
be a
drop
good.
a link in the comments.
Okay, that'd be a good one. Anyway, this stuff is nice and easy to work with, and it's sparkly. That's what you want, and a brown color if you're tying it in brown. If you don't have these colors, don't worry about it. Tie it in different colors and see what happens. And then I'm gonna come back here. I'm just gonna take that chenille, and like all chenilles, I'm gonna take my thumbnail and I'm gonna strip it so that I've got bare cores exposed, and you can see it here. The bare core is exposed from the chenille. Just makes a neater tie-in point. I'm going to tie in those threads with the chenille, nice and tight, so it's not going to come out. And then I'm going to come into the middle of the shank. Now you could put these. We're going to tie the rubber, and just let that chenille hang over the back of the fly wherever. Just get it out of the way. If you got a material clip, stick it in your material clip, or just pull it back over the fly. Now we're going to put in our legs, and I like to have the legs kind of concentrated in the front. So I'm not going to start putting in my legs till the middle of the shank. And the easiest way I've found, because this has 3 sets of double legs. So the easiest way to do that is to get a long, and these are yellow rubber or silicone legs. Easiest way to do that, if you have, sometimes the old style rubber leg comes in sheets that you peel apart. The flat rubber legs, you've probably all seen it, and you have to separate them after you tie them. If you have that kind, I don't have any right here. Wait, maybe I do. No, I don't. If you have that kind, then just keep 2 strands together, 3 bunches of 2 strands, and keep them together. That'll make it easier to tie this. But I don't have that in yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a long piece, pretty long piece, and I'm going to double it over and just tie a knot in the ends. Just trying to keep this together. Because this has 3 sets of double rubber legs in it. I'm just going to tie a knot in the end there. This just makes it easier to deal with those legs. And then I'm going to cut those 2 little ears off there. So it just makes it easier to handle. So I've got 3 of those made up. And then I'm going to come over to my fly, grab one of these, and just going to place this doubled over strand right over my tie-in point, like so. And I am going to cross over a couple times, like so. I'm going to pull them and cross over the other way. And, this gets a little fiddly. You have to be careful. And, you just have to kind of take your time. It's nothing hard here, but it just gets a little fiddly. And try to have them so they're sticking straight out. You can fix that later when you wind your chenille, because they're not really sticking straight out for me. But that doesn't matter, because I can fix that with my chenille. So then I'm going to stroke those back, and I'm going to come forward about maybe 2 wraps of chenille worth, and I'm going to tie in my second pair of legs the same way, except I'm going to stroke these back and hold them out of the way, and then with my finger in my other hand, I'm going to center that. You know what? I'm gonna maybe move to the other wider camera for this. See if this shows it better. And then so I'm going to stroke these back and hold them, and then place this on top of my thread at the tie-in point. Right there. Hold it in place. Make a cross wrap. And then make another cross wrap. Just got to kind of sneak your thread in there. Go a few times. Just to make sure they're secure. But you want these long because you want them to be pretty long. And then you come forward, not quite to the bead, and you tie in a third bunch. So as you can see, it gets progressively more difficult. But as long as you take your time, there's nothing here that is really taxing to your fly tying skills. You just have to take your time. So I'm going to put the third set up here. And I got those too close to the other set, so I'm going to put them pretty close to the bead. I should have left myself a little bit more room. Good thing I'm not tying against flagler this week. That's better. A little better. I got room in there. Yeah, I'll have room. Okay, so you got a big bunch of crazy wiggly stuff there. And then I think we'll go to this camera. So now you're going to start winding your body. And if you want to keep things out of the way while you're winding, you could gather all these together and use a material clip or some kind of clamp, lightweight clamp, to hold them out of the way like that. I'll do that. You don't have to. It makes it a little bit easier for these first couple of winds of chenille. And then take your first turn of chenille right over that tail and make sure you hold onto the tail so it stays in place. And then you're going to make probably 3 wraps or even 4. And now you're at your first series of legs. And if you're really tricky, you could just pull out the second set of legs. I'm not that tricky, and it would take too long. And you got to separate them and take 2 turns in between those legs. Oh, maybe 3 in this case. I had a little bit too much distance between my legs. And then, where are we here? And then I got my third set of legs. Oh boy, what a mess. It's still going to come out okay. Couple turns there. Actually, only one. I only need 1 turn there. And then take about 2 turns around the head, right up against that bead. And then you're gonna tie off your chenille and wiggle your thread around there and get that thread in behind the bead so it kind of buries in behind the bead like so. Take a couple turns there, then trim off your chenille. and take a few more really tight turns and make sure you got that chenille secured and up against that bead. Now your whip finish. If I can find my whip finish tool, I'll hand whip finish this. I'll hand whip finish. Those of you who like to do a hand whip finish. And then all you need to do is first cut those loops. And they might be all different lengths, doesn't matter, because you're going to. And then you just cut them off. And I like these long. This one here is a little too short. I like these fairly long. I think the longer they are, and don't pull them when you cut them, just stretch it. Don't stretch them, just pull them and cut them off. And that's pretty much it. So you've got lots of stuff going on here and lots of stuff going on here. When you pull this through the water, these stream back. And I think they look probably like the legs of a crayfish, and these are the claws on the end here, but who knows? Anyways, and the legs aren't always going to be beautifully symmetrical, and they don't need to be. You just want lots of stuff up here moving around. So that is the tequili. That's the bug. Questions? Any questions? Smallmouth love the tequili. Is this a tequili? Yes, this is a tequili, Joe. This is a tequili. Oh yeah, head cement, Chris, of course. Yep, head cement. And I often when I'm tying for live stuff like this, I don't head cement, mainly because I usually tie a couple dozen flies and then I head cement them all at once in a production. But yeah, just head cement. And I would not use UV cure resin on this because you want this head cement to soak into that bead and to that chenille. And if you use UV resin, you're just not going to get it all the way in there because it's not going to cure when it gets down in there. So head cement or super glue would be fine. But I wouldn't use UV cure here. Oh, I didn't turn the camera on. You guys didn't tell me. I'll put the head cement on again. Where you're looking at my butt instead of telling me that I was. So I just, kind of work it in there. So head cement or super glue. Super glue kind of tends to turn things white, so it doesn't look as good.
Hey, Tom, 2 questions that have come in is, one, can you add additional weight, like maybe lead wraps to this fly? And then what would be the largest size and the smallest size you would tie in fish?
The largest size I would tie this in is probably maybe a 2. That would be more for largemouth. And then the smallest personally I would tie him is an 8. Tying this in a size 10 and getting all those rubber legs in there might be pretty annoying. If I were to tie it in a 10, I probably wouldn't put double leg. I'd put 3 sets of legs in, but I wouldn't put 3 sets of double legs in, just because there's just too much stuff to put in there on a limited shank length. So as small as an 8 or a 10, and as big as a 2 for a largemouth, or maybe for bigger smallmouth too. Yep. Do you fish this year round? You can. You can fish it year round. If you fish streamers during the winter, then you could fish this in the wintertime, or dead drift it. Dead drifting might be a really good way to fish it during the winter, because again, it does have a lot of movement. It's probably a decent large stonefly imitation as well, because it does have those colors. And yes, Mark, you could add a weed guard, particularly if you were going to use this for largemouths. I would put a weed guard on it. Would you beef up the strength of chenille with gold ultra wire? You could, Mac. I don't find that chenille is that undurable. But you could, yeah, you could definitely, if you want to wind chenille through those legs, and then you want to wind through there with ultra wire and scoot around all those legs, you're welcome to do it. You can do anything you want. I'm not going to. I'm a lazy tire. Do you prefer cement over super glue? I do most of the time, Brad Horn. I do most of the time, because super glue, I find that it doesn't dry right away, and it sticks on my fingers, and then I get it all over. Plus it dries kind of whitish. So there's certain applications for super glue when you want something to stick right away and you want to move on. But I like head cement better. But it's up to you. Equal strength, I think. And yes, Roger, you could add more weight if you wanted to. You could certainly. The people like this fly because it's kind of a shallow running fly, even though it has a big tungsten bead at the head of it. It's got a lot of stuff that retards sink rate, so it's kind of a shallower water streamer. But you could definitely wrap the shank with non-toxic wire, or put 2 beads on it if you wanted to. But yeah, you could put more weight on it, definitely, if you wanted to fish it deep. Absolutely. Yep. You think you're a lazy tire? Yeah, I am a lazy tire. I am a lazy tire. I only put as many steps in as I have to, because I mean, sometimes I enjoy tying just for the sake of tying, but often it's a means of building inventory for my fly boxes, and I don't want to waste a lot of time with things on a fly that I don't need. So, yeah. Super glue and marabou, not good. Fluffy fingers. Yeah, I'm with you, Warren. I totally agree. Head cement, if you get it on your fingers, it dries right away. And you can rub it off. Super glue, not so much. So yeah, super glue and marabou, not a good combination. Ed tied it with a cone head on a size 2 hook for largemouth. Will it work well? Ed, you have to tell us. How I am not Kreskin, Ed. I can't predict how well your flies are going to work. The fish are going to give you the answer. So yeah, efficiency in tying is what I'm looking for. I mean, not always. Certain patterns, when you enjoy the intricacy, deer hair bugs and some realistic nymphs and some really exquisite dry flies. You want to take your time and you want to fuss with them, but often a fly like this, this is a commodity fly. This is something I tie to stock my box with because they work. So I'm going to want to tie them as quickly and efficiently as I can. But that's Euro nymphs or weighted nymphs in general, you don't want to spend a lot of time with, because you're going to lose them, right? You don't want to get emotionally involved with your with your deep sinking nymphs, because you're going to lose them on the bottom in 5 casts. So why spend so much time in it? Okay, Ed, you fish it and you let us know. But you better put a weed guard on it if you're tying it for largemouths. Would you tie it on a jig hook to fish riprap? Yeah, you could tie it. You could tie it on a longer shank jig hook. You would need a slotted bead to tie it on a jig hook, because you can't get a standard bead over that 90-degree curve. So you'd need a slotted bead. But yeah, you could tie it on a jig hook. You could definitely catch the same fish twice with TeQueely. Okay, I'll buy that. Any other questions? This one went pretty quickly. Who tied along? Who tied along, and how do they look? And if you're proud of them, post them to the Orvis Instagram. Tag Orvis Instagram page at Orvis Fly Fishing. Would you use barbell eyes to help this strip hook up? Yeah, you could, Larry. You could. Might be interesting too. It'd still be basically the same pattern, but yeah. But you have to use gold barbell eyes. You can't use any other color. They have to be gold. Brad, you tied one. Good. Not as pretty as mine. I wouldn't say mine's very pretty, but it'll work. I've tied better ones in my practice sessions than that one. I kind of learned from my mistakes. I kind of crowded those last 2 sets of legs, which I didn't do on the ones that I tied practicing. But when I'm practicing these flies, I'm sitting at my bench and I can get in a little closer and work a little more efficiently. Coneheads work well, but are more expensive than tungsten beads and not worth the extra cost. Yeah, good point. Cones are more expensive. It's definitely a fishy kind of fly. Yep. This is a guide fly. This is a fly tied and designed by a guide who, again, wants to be efficient. Has to clean her boat, go home, clean her boat, get lunches ready for the next day, and tie up some bugs for the next day for her clients. So it's definitely a guide fly. Any other questions? Okay, so don't forget, don't look for me next Monday or the Monday after, or the Monday after that, maybe. I won't be back until the 2nd week in September, so there won't be any fly tying. Unless Roger Bird wants to take over for the tying sessions. Roger, you want to tie for me when I'm gone? No response from Roger. I scared him. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for your great questions, and thank you for tuning in. And I will see you in September. We do have another Facebook Live this week. I'm going to be talking to Sean Combs about the new short 8-weight, the new blackout 8-weight rod. That'll be on Thursday, I think. Thursday, Drew? Wednesday? I think it's Thursday. Thursday at 3 p.m. Sean Combs, as you know, can talk, and so there will be no dead air space, and he'll talk about why we developed the rod and how it performs and how it compares to, say, a 9-foot 8-weight, and why you would want a shorter 8-weight. So I think you'll enjoy that if you're a bass or a carp or a saltwater angler. There are some real advantages to having this kind of 8-weight rod. So tune in. Probably not a trout rod unless you're just fishing big streamers, but for all other kinds of fishing, it's a really appropriate rod. So anyway, thank you all. I'll miss you. but I'll see you. I'll see you in the middle of September. Thanks.